is going into gang-infested areas on the Cape Flats, but they're not there yet. The order to send in soldiers was announced by Police Minister Bheki Cele during his budget vote speech in Parliament yesterday. Cele said President Cyril Ramaphosa had given the green light to a request to send army personnel into 10 precincts in the Western Cape for 3 months. Well, earlier this year, the Mexican Council for Public Security and Criminal Justice released a study naming Cape Town the 11th most dangerous city in the world. There were 2,860 murders there last year, but with the spate of murders this year, Cape Town expected to get even worse, to climb those rankings, with police thus far seemingly unable to curb the killings. To discuss the army deployment, we're now joined by SANDF spokesperson Siphiwe Dlamini. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Dlamini. So the police minister is sort of suggesting this will happen today. Was the SANDF caught off guard because you're not ready?
I wouldn't want to say.
Were you surprised by a politician?
No. I think we need to inform the South African public the process involved in the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, particularly in areas that they are not meant to be, but in areas that they're supposed to support the South African Police Service. There's a process, and a legal process which is in the statutes of the country, particularly the Constitution, has strict regulations on how the deployment of the South African National Defence should be done, and equally that is also in the Defence Act. There are processes that have to be followed to the latter, and we can't skip those processes.
Okay. Well, South Africa heard about this yesterday when the police minister spoke. When did the SANDF hear about this deployment?
Well, the meeting of the ministers did take place, and soon after it took place, we then began the process of preparing what we call deployment papers. Deployment papers simply mean it is the authorization by the president that says you shall deploy. But we have to go through the process of preparing those deployment papers, which is a legal document that says, after having considered the contents of those deployment papers, the president has assented to those.
Okay, so he said yes, but he still needs to sign on the dotted line.
Absolutely, because legally...
And he's not done that yet?
Legally, as far as I'm aware, the process has been complete, and that is why now we are seeing movement, and the fact that we have begun mobilizing. And these things happen parallel. Once we are aware that a request of this nature has been made by the department concerned, in this regard the police, we then begin from our side as to look at the mobilization, where we're going to get the troops, what we're going to get, what support they need. So that process already kicks in. However, we have to do that within the prescripts of the law.
Okay, so that's underway at the moment. How long will it take to get those soldiers to the Cape Flats?
Well, there's movement as we speak.
Okay.
There's movement as we speak.
Soldiers driving to the Cape Flats, what's happening right now?
Right now, as I say to you, the movement and what we call mobilization is happening as we speak, so that our troops are on the theatre as soon as possible.
Okay, could it be tomorrow, the next day?
We don't speculate in the Defence Force because we believe in the element of surprise.
Okay.
We don't want to inform people that we're doing this, we're doing that. People will see us on the ground.
The Police Minister, Bheki Cele, said this will be an intense deployment. What does that mean?
I'm uncomfortable when you keep referring to the Police Minister when I'm sitting here and speaking on the Defence Force and its deployment in support of the...
Well, he says he spoke to the Defence Minister. This has been arranged between the SANDF and
see,
police.
we deploy in accordance to the prescripts of the law. We don't deploy ourselves. And within those prescripts, there are certain things that we have to follow. And in this case, we're deploying in support of the South African Police Service.
Okay.
What does it mean?
Let me rephrase. What size of deployment has been agreed upon? How many soldiers are going to be on the ground?
The determination is made in accordance to what is needed on the ground. And what are the issues on the ground that will tell us. Our intelligence will then say, this is what is happening on the ground, and that determination will be made from those reports that we have on the ground.
Okay, so you can't tell us roughly how many soldiers are going to be in the Cape Flats?
I can safely say the Western Cape people, particularly the affected areas, will see our members on the ground.
Okay. There is always this tension, Mr. Dlamini, because we know that police officers are trained in a certain way to deal with civilians, so they should use minimal force. Army personnel are trained in a completely different way. They think about warfare, about defending the country as a whole. That created tension in apartheid times. People didn't like the army being on the ground. Is there going to be any issue with that, with the different training possibly leading to more violence or not?
Remember, this is not the first deployment that we've had with the police, in support of the police. We have been deployed with the support to the police on several occasions, in particular during the festive season. And there's clear lines of command between the police and their responsibility, which is policing, and ourselves, what we need to do to support the police to do their job. Remember, this issue is a policing matter. We are there as a support to the police to deal with the issues that they're supposed to deal with in respect of policing. So we're adding value to what the South African Police Service is doing. That is what people should understand. We support what the police service will be doing in terms of dealing with the situation in the Western Cape.
Okay. Can we agree, I guess it's always a last resort. It's always a last resort to send in soldiers to civilian areas.
I guess it would be, but that matter is not taken very lightly. It is not taken very lightly. If you were to ask the members of the 13 families that have lost their loved ones, they would, I believe, say, we would like to have the soldiers remain here forever.
Yeah, we've had a lot of support tonight. We've been asking people what they think.
But we have to do these things within the confines of the law.
Well, with 13 people, what you've alluded to, killed in just 24 hours, the police minister was talking about that yesterday. This is almost like a war zone. Does the SANDF have an opinion here? Are you happy that you're going in, considering what's been happening in those areas?
As long as we are part of the state that has to deal with ensuring that our people feel and are safe, that is our responsibility. To make sure that in support of all government departments, where safety is concerned, we shall be part of that, to make sure that our people are and feel safe as part of government's objective.
You've said that the soldiers will be supporting police. Can you tell us more about how soldiers operate in a situation like this, when gangs are shooting at each other? Will it be very in the open, as it were, or could they operate like police sometimes do, inconspicuously, hiding, waiting to see who's going to open fire first?
Well, you know, I've had quite a couple of interviews today relating to this issue. And one of the questions was, how will you deal with the situation in the Western Cape? Because you will cause more casualties. It's already a war zone. And I said to them, you know, we are going into a situation that has become a situation which is out of hand.
Yeah.
And we are there to calm the situation and not to perpetuate what is happening. So we will, in support of the police, ensuring that that situation turns its head and become safe and secure for our people in the Western Cape.
Okay, so you can't tell me if that's very open, kind of
no,
soldiers on the streets?
You will see our members on the ground. You'll see our boots on the ground. You'll see them working side by side with police. But there are clear-cut command and control. Let me give you an example. Where we go in, we will lock the area up, cordon it off, seal it off. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out, but the police in that state, we will doing the policing work in that cordon off area.
Okay.
So they will see a lot of our members on the ground.
Yeah. Is the relationship between the police and the SANDF good, the working relationship, to make this very smooth?
Our responsibility is to make sure that every single citizen of this country feels and is safe as a South African National Defence Force in conjunction with the police.
And what if someone comes and tells a Defence Force member that the police are involved, that the police have been corrupt, that they have evidence?
That evidence we need so that it can be taken to the relevant authorities. Police themselves should take that evidence and deal with it.
When the army went in, we were all very happy to fix the situation of sewage spilling into the Vaal Dam. But a few months later, there was a budget issue saying, you know, they weren't being paid. Has this been budgeted for? The SANDF has faced budget cuts. Can you afford this right now?
You see, the SANDF gets deployed or gets requested to attend to various issues, in particular support to the people. That's what we call support to the people, where you send us to go and help in the Vaal, to go and help in the Northwest during the hospital, the health practitioners. We go in there as the defense force because we are commanded to do that. In the while, we're using our own budget with the hope that there will be reimbursement. In the case of Vaal, we've also used our own budget with the hope that there will be reimbursement. So from now on, the Defence Force will be entering into MOUs with various departments so that we get that we've used reimbursed back to our
and that is available.
Yes.
How will this work? Do your members go in and out, or will there be stations, barracks, as it were?
You mean as in the Western Cape?
Sort of in the Cape Flats. If somebody comes from a different part of the country, where will they be housed? Will these soldiers be in the community or maybe housed outside? Do you have any of those details?
We are soldiers. We stay in tents. We are 24 hours at work. We rotate. So all those logistics have been taken care of. Mind you, we've been there before, so we know the situation.
When was that?
During Christmas festive season, we always support the police as and when they need a rise.
Final question. So we've been asking our viewers, do you think this is a good move or a worrying move? Many are coming out in support of the SANDF being on the ground. What would you say to the South African public? Should they be comfortable with this situation?
I think the South African public have always had confidence in the South African National Defence Force, and that is why mainly it was the people themselves of the Cape Flats that were crying out loud to say, bring in the SANDF, bring in the SANDF. And we have had to educate them that we cannot just be brought in willy-nilly. There are processes that have to be followed. There's certain things that have to be done such that whatever happens when we're there, we've done everything within the law.
All right, thank you very much. That was the spokesperson for the SANDF, Siphiwe Dlamini, so saying mobilization is happening right now, but not giving away sort of the size of the deployment or the exact timing.